Welcome to the latest in the Truth Revealed series. My name's Mark Thorpe, and I'm a director at Truth Consulting. And I'm honoured, privileged to be joined by Jon, who is head of behaviour and culture at Truth, and Jon Suarez. He will introduce himself in more depth. And we're going to be talking today about qualitative research in the age of AI. How do we move forward as qualitative researchers? Jon, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Jon Suarez. I am the head of behaviour and culture, which is our qualitative team here at Truth. I joined Truth a year and a half ago, roughly. And it's been a bit of an interesting time to join, what with all of that's been going on in qualitative research and the impact of AI. And really, really keen to sort of talk about how we move forward, what the future of qual AI, qual in the age of AI looks like, and also talk a little bit about how we see things at Truth, I guess, sort of point of view of qualitative research. So, excited to be here.
Well, my first question for you, Jon, is taking you back a few months, and you probably remember very well the furore that there was a few months ago about doing qual at scale, particularly in the light of Anthropic's announcement. They did an expansive piece of what they call qualitative research, and I just wondered what your thoughts are on all of that.
Yeah, there was quite a lot of furore, wasn't there, about it, and we also had a lot of clients sort of jumping in real quick on that, which I thought was really interesting as a behaviour in and of itself. Well, my thoughts have evolved. I think I've been on a journey. I've also been sort of interested in what all of this is and what it means for us. And I think that, for me, that I don't think that qual at scale is qual. And that's the way that I see it. I feel that AI has sort of introduced almost like a middle ground that I think is extremely useful for a great many briefs, and they're much more efficient in terms of the amount of time it takes to get results back, and in terms of how much cheaper it is, really. But when I think of qual and what qualitative research is, I think almost implicit in the name qualitative research, and my understanding of it, is that I don't need to do 250 interviews. I think we've all been on those projects where after the 12th, 13th interview, you're not really getting that much more. And perhaps the client wanted to do 20, 25 and increase the sample. And we go along with it, but it's almost like diminishing returns after a certain amount of interviews. I think we just need in qualitative research a small amount of interviews with people that are really high quality, that are exactly who you want to talk to, in order to get what you need. And I don't think that we often need 250. And what is deemed qual at scale today, I mean, it sort of encompasses a lot of things, but I think very often it's more on analysing at scale open-ended responses to questions, which I think is one thing, and what I think do in the qualitative team at Truth is different.
What is qualitative research? So you said qualitative research can't really be done at scale because that's not qualitative research. What is qualitative research?
Yeah, I think it depends a lot on the brief, but I think there are some principles of qualitative research that are, I guess, depth is really important in qualitative research, and it's something that complements quantitative research really well. When you have a survey or a questionnaire that has closed-ended questions, it's extremely important to be able to do those projects from the point of view of robustness and confidence and statistical significance. But, what qual gives you in exchange is like depth. So going back to the sort of qual at scale point, you start to lose depth the more people you talk to, particularly in the way that AI currently does it. I'm not saying in the future it might not sort of do it better than we do right now. I think there are other things that very often us who've been in the industry for a while recognize that are sort of, again, very, very true to qualitative research. So, for example, instinct. very often you're in a focus group and it's what one person says that's extremely interesting, that feels right, that everyone suddenly agrees with. It's sort of, it's almost like the planets align with that sentence, and you know that you've landed in something very insightful, very inspiring, something different, a revelation, a new way of seeing something. And I think that, again, like that instinct comes with, you know, experience and expertise and having done it for a while and having a knack for, like, you know, the art of qualitative research. So I don't know whether I can define qualitative research, but there are a lot of things I think that are part of what I would consider is qualitative research that I think quality scale, for lack of a better word, isn't able to fully achieve yet.
Really interesting, John. And the team obviously is not called the qualitative research team, it's called behaviour and culture. Why isn't it called the qualitative research team, and why is it called behaviour and culture?
Yeah, and I think that's, again, something that at Truth, like, gives us a bit of a point of view, I guess, for how we do things. Like, qualitative research feels almost, I don't know, off the shelf. And when we're dealing with people, when we're dealing with depth, when we're dealing with richness, texture, when we're dealing with inspiration, that comes through the messiness of humans and behavior, which is very often idiosyncratic, even if there are patterns within that idiosyncrasy. And then also culture, because we don't as humans live in a vacuum, and of course we are influenced by context. So I think, you know, we don't like to talk as much about method as we like to talk about the matter that we're dealing with. And we're dealing with humans that are complicated, idiosyncratic, interesting, rich, deep, complex. But within all of that is where the prize lies for our clients in terms of what we unlock for them. It's not in the obvious. And then also the realization that, yeah, we live in context. We can't be stripped away from the context and the cultures that we live with, and how those forces influence, I guess, decision-making and behavior and attitudes and perceptions. And so I think we like to talk about it more in that sort of more raw, authentic context than we do from a method point of view.
Okay, that's really interesting. I mean, one of the things that I know you spend a lot of time with the team doing is thinking about how we blend different ways of seeing together. Could you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, so we don't talk just about sort of, you know, integration, which I've heard a lot, like, you know, throughout my career in different agencies. At Truth, and it helps to, like, you know, sort of reunited, I guess, with people that I've worked with before in the industry, because, you know, when you know, we ourselves as researchers are people are messy and idiosyncratic as well, but when you start to understand each other, it really helps with working together and collaborating. But beyond integration, we talk about blended methods, but we also talk about blended thinking, and we talk about blended outputs. And what we mean by that is that, you know, you don't really get, unless it's extremely clear cut, where each specialism is delivering against very specific and split objectives. On a project, we get together in a room as semioticians, as qualitative researchers, as quantitative researchers, to discuss what the data and what the revelations and the insights and the findings of what we have found, sort of how it all comes together, and how that blends into actually what's at the core of what we're doing, which is our clients' problems. So we kind of flip it. We start with the problem that we are there to resolve rather than the data that we have. And we use a lot of our findings and a lot of the data to tell a story that really sharply, distinctly, and I guess in an inspiring way resolves against that problem. But it's not the qual says this, or the semio says that, or the quant says the other. It's the question is, what does this mean for our clients? And then all the specialisms think together and produce outputs together that are truly blended.
Yeah, and I think it's almost without frontiers, isn't it? I mean, I think that's the really powerful thing, that our version of qualitative research has got semiotics in it.
Yeah.
It's got language analysis in it. It's not a separate kind of discipline or ways of working.
Totally.
And I've always found that, I've always struggled with that idea that you have your semiotics over there, your cultural analysis over there, your qual research there.
Yeah.
Because qual research in my head has always been all of those things together.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what this idea of behaviour and culture as a kind of different kind of entity is trying to achieve.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think, again, like, you can't really split them because they're just like different ways of looking at the problem. And even quality scale, again, like we wouldn't call it quality scale at truth. We call it not quality scale. But, you know, even that has its place, and it might be, and we've started actually for specific briefs, blending that kind of format where it makes sense with, you know, what we would call qualitative research and semiotics. So it's, that blend happens, it's almost like you're treating that as a method, but actually what's important is the thinking at the end of that, and what's important is how we put that together to help our clients.
And where does AI fit in this blended world, this wonderful blended world that we have?
Yeah.
What's your vision for AI and us?
I mean,
and qual?
It's such a roller coaster, I feel, with AI, because it changes all the time, and it really demands from us, you know, to almost like have to be on top of things constantly. Like you say, when Anthropic sort of, you know, launched, like it was like, oh my goodness, like how are we using this? Where does it fit into our business model? And I think emotionally it's quite a roller coaster as well, because I've gone through is like, you know, like really loving it and this is amazing, and then going like, actually it's let me down and it's not good enough, or actually it's going to take people's jobs, and, you know, so it's kind of, I think we're still reckoning with it, and I think that the dust hasn't settled yet. Slowly it's beginning to. I see that there's a real strong role, and we're already using it massively to help us with efficiencies, to streamline things, whether that's in design or whether that's like, you know, starting points for analysis, or helping with provocations, or helping even like immerse yourself into like a particular category or a particular challenge in a way that before it would have taken you weeks of desk research to do, and now you can really like become fast and efficient at getting to the starting point you want to get to, so that your starting point is more advanced than it ever used to be. I think it's becoming extremely good at synthesizing, but again, the kind of qualitative analysis that we do at Truth goes way beyond synthesis. If you, like I was saying earlier, if you had one person in a focus group and, you know, they'd sort of said something that hit the nail on the head, the synthesis is not necessarily going to catch that because the other 5 didn't say it. And if you do quality scale, like if only 1 out of 250 said it, it becomes even more redundant. But actually that might be the key that unlocks the major prize for our clients. So, you know, for synthesis, fantastic, phenomenal, really quick. I think it's helping us, like, you know, with things like fast tracking discussion guide discussions and writings, and, you know, there's a lot of things for which I think quality scale, AI is really, really great. I think that the other thing, if I may say also, why I think that AI is going to be great, is it's going to force us to bring the value. It's going to force every qualitative researcher to go above and beyond, to really, you know, you can't get away with producing something mediocre anymore. You really need to bring the depth and the texture and the color and the richness, and you really need to unlock the inspiring insight that helps move things forward. You really need to bring the human into the picture in a way that perhaps before, you know, you're too busy, people rest on their laurels a bit, and AI is kind of forcing us and pushing us to be better, I think. Here's another positive way of looking at it.
Right, so there's a good aspect to AI.
Yeah, for sure.
You mentioned analysis, and analysis is one of those things that I think often goes under the radar, and I know you've got very strong views as to how we do analysis and the value of analysis in the work we do. Could you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, I just think, I think it's really important that we have senior people that really understand the challenge at hand, because otherwise you're just analyzing data, but it all has to have a focal point. And I think that one thing that we, that we sort of emphasize a lot of Truth is we have senior people across every project, really senior people in the team. They're not just checking, they're highly involved, they're driving, they're really responsible for making the rest of the team nail and understand the client challenge. And that to me is always the starting point. What are we trying to resolve for the client? Otherwise, it's just an interesting topic and it's an interesting set of insights, but they're actually not that insightful to the client. So I think from an analysis point of view, that to me is really key. And another thing I think is the diversity that we have at Truth, people's backgrounds, people's thinking, people's points of view, and bringing all of that in again to give you those layers of texture, to give you those different, and anyone can have the great idea. You don't need senior people to be the ones dictating the story or even the insights. Very often it's the younger people and the more junior people in the team that come with the real brainwaves, right? The real insights. But I think what helps from an experience point of view is having people that can detect that that was the insight and that is the right thing that the client, that's going to help unlock like the client's challenges. And so from an analysis point of view, I think it can't just be about synthesis. It can't just be about amalgamating data together. It has to be a real understanding of the strategic challenges that our clients have, mixed with like creative thinking for how we come up with inspiring and I guess like an edge and a different way of looking at a problem that unlocks opportunities for our clients to be more competitive.
Is that how we add value? Is that how qualitative search adds value?
I think so. Yeah. Also quant though, I think that, very often when I've worked in the past with quant, like it's very clear people that are quantitative, but also great storytellers and kind of understand that it's not just about reporting the data, but very much about reporting it in a way that is the most useful and compelling way for a client to move forward with their challenge at hand, right? And I think very often when we work with quant, like we do that together really well. So it is about, for me, analysis is about bringing that to the table.
So what does the future look like in this world of AI? What does the future of qualitative search look like?
Yeah. I need to do some quant to put my money on it. But I think that AI is going to become a tool that we use a lot to find efficiencies, to help immerse ourselves really quickly, to develop much sharper starting points, to develop much sharper design tools for research. I think AI is gonna bring a new format through not qual at scale, for specific briefs. For example, if you were to want to test some propositions really early on and you don't need a massive investment and you're kind of happy with some directional findings and some directional insights, I think that could be super useful, and we blend that in already. I think that we're going to see AI developing and improving, and I can't see what that will bring, but I wouldn't be surprised if we're having a very different conversation in a year's time. But so far, I think, it's going to force us to be better. I genuinely do think that, and I think, it was required, and I think that that's inspiring to me.
What does to be better mean? So if we are better,
yeah,
what's driving better?
I think thinking outside the box, being less obvious, really pushing the human emotion into things, gaining far more depth in a less abstract way. So beyond sort of like, oh, it's about freedom, or it's about X, or it's about Y, like, what does that look like? How is, like, bringing all that texture into emotion and feeling? It's about human stories. It's about instinct. It's about, I just think it's going to be kaleidoscopic. I think that you can't get away anymore with like painting a two-color picture of things. I think it needs to bring much more inspiring and creative thinking.
Okay, cool. And for you personally, Jon, what is it about qualitative research that does it for you? Why do you stay in this world, apart from the paycheck at the end of the month?
Yeah.
What is it that keeps...
Which is never enough.
Yeah, it's never enough. What gets you excited? What really makes you feel this is just the best ever?
Look, I absolutely love, and I say this very often at the beginning of like the focus groups when I moderate them, and it's that I love what I do because it gets me talking to an array of different people I wouldn't ordinarily talk to or necessarily talk to about an array of subjects that I wouldn't necessarily talk about. And I think that but really so that element of learning and that element of like understanding the world and understanding people, I think is really attractive to me. But I think personally it's the problem solving. It's the knowing that you had an idea that was research inspired, that really helped a client get a competitive advantage. I think that there are three almost elements of qualitative research that I love. One is like the competitiveness of giving our clients a competitive advantage and knowing that you were able to help them win in that sense. The other one is like the puzzle solving, the problem solving, the how do we resolve this challenge in a way that I've unlocked it, this is what it is. And then the other part is the sort of like interacting with people, and it's about understanding the world and understanding spaces. And we've just done a project on understanding life, I guess the meaning the sport has in people's lives, like beyond again sort of tropes and stereotypes, and it's been phenomenal because I myself am not very sporty, so it's not a space that I think about a huge degree, but I can see my dad in it and I can see friends in it, and I see when I was sporty, and it's really understanding those spaces that gives you, I guess, like one of those little lenses that helps you understand the world better. I think it's very motivating to continue in Qual.
Brilliant. That's a really nice summary, I think, Jon. So, Qual, good future, behaviour and culture, positive future.
I think behaviour and culture has a way more positive future than Qual by itself, because it's a richer space and a richer way of understanding it. But yeah, I think so. I think it's going to really force us to pull it out of the bag, to be way better, to like not get away with putting anything out there that is, obvious or expected. It's going to push us to be much more interesting, much more provocative. It's going to push us to really make a change to our clients' issues, and also hopefully AI will be kind enough to get rid of like some of the things that are a bit more painful or more arduous about working in qualitative research and research in general. So yeah, I'm actually quite optimistic.
Okay. On that note, Jon, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having me. Thanks a lot. My first Truth Revealed.
Truth Revealed.